So guys, what's up? I'm gonna do a little foam rolling before I do my run. Figured I'd have you join me, do it in real time. Check out Dr. Heitz's videos on back pain, also good. This one we're gonna start foam roller at T1. So that's the thoracic right above the shoulder blades, right where the neck meets the thoracic area. That canopy is not blocking the sun, that's very great. So what we're gonna do here is get your legs out a little bit. You're just going to push off your heels. So you can see that brings the chest up. Tightens your hip flexors. Anytime you're pushing off the heels, just like in foundation training, it's going to engage that diaphragm. I'm just going to close my eyes because this sun is just right in there. Whew. Then what you want to think about doing here is taking a breath. So you're going to inhale, which lengthens the spine. Exhale, kind of drive off the heels, get a little taller. This is the stability part. And then we're going to do some mobility too at each spine. So you got 12 thoracic vertebrae. We're going to hit them all. So find that top one. Let the head go into extension. You can push like Dr. Daniel was to get some extension. And then slowly, carefully, bring it up. It's okay if you don't get a pop. Just getting that mobility there. And then you're going to inhale. Pull your shoulders down. Exhale, you're going to move the foam roller to T2. Second one down. Do that same little drill. You're gonna extend, so you're bringing that vertebrae into extension. A little bit of push, and then breathe out again. Bring it into flexion. Okay, it's not about getting the pop, it's just about running through that joint through some motion. Getting some length, moving down to T3. Big inhale, drive with the heels. Inhale, let the head go into extension. Exhale. Same thing. Keep working our way up here. Lengthen. Exhale and hold. Should we get a little bit of ache here in that hip flexor region? A little bit of shake. People think they have trouble with mobility. It's not so much that. It's stability that most people lack. Inhale, exhale, good. Inhale, lengthen, exhale, move it down another vertebrae. Should be at like 5 or 6 right now. Might be moving a little too fast, but that's okay as long as you're hitting those areas. It's more about just holding your weight, letting your butt hover a little bit off the ground, not falling into extension too much. We're trying to keep that spine, hip, shoulder, ear in a straight line. Try not to rush this. A lot of people, when they roll, they're just rolling up and down the spine, trying to get movement. Not the goal. You want stability too. If you're really good with this, you can try and lever overhead. You'll notice that really puts a lot of pressure on the spine, so maybe not till you're ready. We're just gonna keep flexing now. I kind of have to flex the whole spine to get to where I want to be. Didn't have to do as much before with the neck. Your neck injury at all, don't beat it up. Lengthen, pull your shoulders down, get that long neck. Like the idea of a turtle pulling its neck out of its shell. Your shell's the shoulders, so the shoulders are pulling down. Extension of the spine, flexion of the spine. Just moving down one vertebrae at a time. So around diaphragm area, that's when you don't want to extend too much. We're probably safe here. But if I go any lower, I don't want to extend. So here I really got to round myself to get that stretch. Lengthen. Think about stability. Think about the breathing. Think what the diaphragm is. We want to, it's a little hard right there because it pushes it up. So here's actually really good. It flares the ribs out. The problem with the diaphragm is we don't use it. So when we breathe in, think about grabbing it, pulling it down. So it should come down, depress to allow more air to fill your lungs. Get a good ache here on the neck just holding myself. Your head's going to want to rise. Just try to keep yourself lengthened. It may not look perfect, but that's what you're going for. It really helps stretch upper traps. So the breathing is important too. Getting that lengthen, pulling the diaphragm down, hip flexors helping. iliopsoas attaches to the diaphragm to help pull it, to help depress a little bit more, because we could have a lot of gut issues too from breathing. Good. As we get into the lower back, especially if you're running, you want the hips working with you. You're just hitting QL, kind of a little bit of the lat muscle, erectors, staying in that crunch position, not going into extension here, really sucking in. Working both sides a little bit there. That's when you can do some more free rolling. Just loosening those up so they don't arch your back too much when you're running. Kind of two types of people. People that arch a lot into extension, pulling their head back too much, and then there's people who kind of lead with their head. Same with biking. See both you kind of people running around. I'm always watching. So you want to keep the same, pretend you're running with the foam roller, you want that same kind of thing, where your ear, shoulder, hip are in a straight line when you're running. If you've pushed your hips forward when you're running and extended your neck and shoulders, same problem. Not good. But you also don't want to be leading with your head and shoulders either. You want everything stacked. Here, kind of like what Dr. Heitz was showing, working those external rotators of the hip, you can do his little psoas, piriformis stretch. I get those P muscles mixed up all the time. So that piriformis runs from the hip to your tailbone. So you're just pulling the knee across the body, pushing down, pulling across, just using the foam roller. You can do that same thing he was talking about, the active stretch, where you're pushing into your knee with your hand, just adding that massage element to it. I like to go the other way too. Press down, and that just activates the muscle, deactivates the muscle. So you stretch it, activate it, switch it up. So just figure 4 across. I like the foam rollers that are a little tougher than this one, but this one's good for the spine. Same thing, we'll do a little push and pull. 5 minutes of this stuff will really save you when you're running. So it's not just about burning calories, it's about making sure your joints are moving right, hip and shoulders are moving correctly. And you can spend more time rolling the whole legs. I'm not going to. I am going to hit my lat muscle. So lat muscle here, spine, shoulder, because we should be using our shoulders when we're running. So we definitely don't want that guy compressing everything. I think you can start here more on the side than we were before. We all tend to brace, so you want to kind of exhale and sink in. It feels like, oh, I'm squashing my organs, but it's okay. Otherwise, we kind of guard and hold. Sink in there. Just let it go. Do a couple breaths like that, and then you can move. You don't want to be on the front of the ribs. It's more just along the side of the body, working your way up. Lat can internally rotate the shoulders, so externally rotate it here. Just running through some motions like that. Can also help work out a little bit of subscap. You can kind of get it here if you're good. That's a muscle that also turns the shoulder in. It's underneath your shoulder blade, so it's like trying to get to it. Maybe if you had a tougher foam roller with those little knobs on it. This one kind of gives in too easy. These little $5 cheap ones. Hit the other side. Just give you a different angle. Move my mic around here so I'm not rolling on it. I always wonder if the mic's even on. I'm just talking to myself. It's possible. Like, what's that guy doing? What's happening? Who knows? I talk to myself. Just life for me. Just pretend like people are there, like people care. Breathe, sink, like I said. You can also do this with a lacrosse ball. If you really hate yourself. So kind of right before you get to the ribs, that way you can kind of just rotate your body, dig in. You might notice one side's a little tighter than the other, but lat muscles are big for me. Anyone with lower cross, upper cross syndrome, they can really affect the joints and your pelvic tilts and compress your spine. They're one of the few muscles that are long enough to run from the pelvic structure and the spine to the shoulder structure. They can also be really weak too. So if you have sway back or forward pelvic position, your lats are probably weaker. If you're compressed like me, we're opposite patterns. So posterior pelvic tilt tends to have the opposite muscle patterns of anterior pelvic tilt. People tend to focus on those way too much. It is important, but that's why I teach foundation training is first you gotta learn how to decompress and anchor your hips before you really worry about pelvic tilt. You put the cart before the horse many times there. Hopefully that helped. I feel good. I have a lot of problems. Roll my shins out. Try to get some mobility in those shins. This is also kind of that pushing back there. That's what we call a jackknife exercise. Gives that little bit of stretch activation on that hip flexor too. So you're not just loosening up that ankle, which just feels really good. Notice I got my toe shoes on because I like to trail run, not just to keep my social distancing, but I like to grip and grab the ground. And it's less of an impact if you think about it. It's a little softer, rocks and stuff to grab. Kind of retrains your feet how to work because you can feel everything in these shoes. Just a little bit of protection. Really driving that out. Squeezing the glutes. If it's shaking, you're doing something right. Usually get a cramp in my feet doing that one. Whew. Cramps are good. Embrace the cramps. All right, guys. Peace out. Hopefully that helped.